Welcome to Planet Doug behind the scenes for Sunday, December 18th. And I'm not exactly sure what time it is because I totally forgot about this, but I think there's a time change in between Malaysia and Sumatra. At least all of my devices have different times on them. My watch is still set to Malaysia time and it tells me it is almost 6 a.m. And one of my smartphones agrees with that and tells me it's 6 a.m. But I realized that phone, I don't think that phone ever connected to the internet. So it didn't, automatically change the time zone. One of my phones, I connected to the Wi-Fi here at my hotel and I think it updated the time on its own. And that phone is showing 5 a.m. So it's either 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. I'm not sure which. And the reason I'm not sure is the bane of my existence, the lack of Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems I face in my life. When I stayed at the hotel in Port Dickson, there was no Wi-Fi in my room, so I had no access to the internet other than through data on my phone. But again, if I have no Wi-Fi, that means I can't upload any videos to YouTube in any form at all. And just everything. Life just becomes so complex and so difficult and so stressful when you don't have a reliable Wi-Fi. And when I moved into this hotel, where I am now in Dumai in Sumatra, I was pleased to see that there was Wi-Fi in this room. And I took a room on the main floor, like the ground floor, whatever you call it. Mainly because it is easier to bring my bike and my gear into the room. If I'm up on the second or third, I have to carry everything up and down the stairs all the time. So that's the main reason I wanted a room on the ground floor. But it also means you're closer, in general, you're closer to the, the routers, wherever the routers are. And the internet connection, there seemed to be one in this room, and there was one, but then all evening it would just come and it would go and it would disappear, and it was really slow. And now I woke up this morning and I wanted to get on the, just get things done, and I'm just sort of sitting here feeling so frustrated because there is no Wi-Fi. There is a signal. I mean, I have a Wi-Fi network, but it's not connected to the internet. And yesterday when I arrived in Dumai, it was such a chaotic day. And there was so much going on, I didn't get a SIM card. And I'm arriving at a ferry dock, of course. I mean, if you're arriving at an airport, you're just funneled right past a half dozen SIM card outlets. You can get one right at the airport and you're ready to go. And they're used to dealing with tourists and foreigners, so it's usually a very easy process. But when you arrive at a dock by boat, there's nothing there. There are no services for foreigners. They don't expect a bunch of people like me to show up. So there are no ATMs and no shops. You can't get a cold drink and a snack and a coffee as soon as you land. There's none of that going on, and you don't get a SIM card. As I was riding my bike around town looking for a hotel, I did pass a ton of smartphone stores, and they had big displays of SIM cards. I remember what they looked like from my last trip to Sumatra, and I recognized even some of the companies. But it was one of the many, many, many things I didn't have time to do, which is refresh my memory about all the various SIM card providers and which one is the best. I think the last time I was in Sumatra, I got two different ones. One was better for this and the other one was better for that, and they weren't expensive, and I had a dual SIM phone, so I ended up getting two SIM cards. And then if I ran out of data on one, I would just switch to the other card and use data on that, and it was just really convenient to have two. But I can't remember what two I used, so I thought, okay, I'll just, even like I said, as I was passing all these smartphone shops, I thought, oh, it'd be nice to get a SIM card right now, but I just didn't want to deal with it because I had all my luggage with me. I was hot, just sweat. I was soaking wet with sweat and a little bit stressed out from the boat ride from Malaysia. And I was looking for a hotel, and I thought, okay, I can settle into my hotel, then I can go back out into the city and look for a SIM card. But I never got around to doing that last night. So I've woken up this morning with no access to the internet. I am cut off from the modern world. But I'm going to shoot one of these behind the scenes videos anyway. When I was in Port Dickson, I didn't shoot a behind the scenes video, again, because I had no Wi-Fi, and I thought, well, what's the point of shooting a video? You can't upload it anyway. So I ended up writing a little bit of a note and putting it on the community tab on YouTube, just a written note, kind of an update as to where I am and what had happened and what I was planning. Yeah, that was in the morning, and I got a trickle of Wi-Fi. No, I was on, what am I saying? Of course I didn't. I was on data when I was still in Malaysia. I still had my SIM card that I bought in Malaysia. So I still had access to the internet for little things, but I couldn't upload any videos or anything like that. But I did post a note. And I thought I could do that this morning as well, but I can't because I have zero access to the internet. So I thought I might as well record a video anyway. And I don't want to repeat everything that happened yesterday. I shot video the entire day. I mean, I shot video the whole trip from Kuala Lumpur to Port Dickson, from Port Dickson to here. And the main story, if I'm doing these things, if I'm doing this properly, should be in those videos that I'll eventually be posted whenever I can finish editing them and uploading them. So I don't want to repeat the entire story. There'd be no point. But I thought I could pick up on a few details. I'm going to try to think of things that I know I did not include in the videos at any point. And I guess a lot of that, like behind the scenes sort of stuff, might have to do with how I was feeling at certain times, and a lot to do with technology, because that all happens in the background. And in terms of feeling, I have to say that my departure from Kuala Lumpur was the toughest of my life, by far. I just wasn't ready for it, I guess. I worked as hard as I could to prepare for this trip and get the bike ready, get all my camera gear ready, and I don't know, everything went wrong at every single stage. You know, for example, I bought the Rode Wireless Go 2 microphone. I was going to use that on this trip, and then it turned out to be defective, and I had to bring it back to the store and then deal with the whole warranty issue, wait day after day after day. And I finally, I call them up and say, listen, I'm leaving the country, like what's going to happen? Is there any way? And then they decided to give me a new microphone right off the shelf and not wait for the distributor to supply it. But then that meant another trip to the camera store, and then another trip and another trip. I was just so busy that a lot of the things I wanted to take care of in advance ended up being left to the final day. And I don't know, everything just took forever. I couldn't think straight, I couldn't operate. I think I was tired, I was stressed out, I was exhausted, and I worked all day long, just non-stop all day. Don't ask me what I was doing, but I was doing stuff. And I didn't seem to be making any progress at all, and it got late into the night. It got around 10, 11, midnight, and my room at the Kojoy was still a complete disaster. Everything I was trying to do was not working. I felt completely unprepared, and I was just a wreck. And if it was a possibility, at that point, I would have just canceled the whole trip. If at that point I could have switched gears, I would not have gone on this bike ride to Sumatra. I would have said, okay, forget it. It's too much. I can't deal with this right now. I have enough to do in my life without also adding the bike to my life and taking a ferry to Sumatra, all the unknowns. If I could have done it, I would have canceled. And I would have just said to the Kojoy, okay, can I, I'll just pay for this room for another month, and I'll just book a flight, fly to Medan, stay there for a few days, fly back, and that's what I would have done, to be honest. I was so fed up, I was so out of it. I just did not have the energy for what it is I'm doing right now. And then I couldn't sleep. My brain was in such turmoil that I could not go to sleep. I got no sleep at all during the night. Spent the entire night just trying to do stuff, trying to go to sleep. My heart was pounding like crazy. I couldn't get my heart to slow down. I don't know, I was just overwhelmed with everything that was crammed into my brain. And yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull it off, you know. But, you know, wheels were in motion. I'd reserved my ferry ticket. Of course, that I could have canceled. That wasn't a big deal. I hadn't paid for it in advance. That's one good thing about going by ferry. You know, you don't have to book your flight in advance and pay for it in advance. You kind of show up at the dock. So that's not a big deal. But you know, Matthew had offered to drive me to Port Dickson with my bike and all my gear, and he was expecting me in the morning. You know, it's not like I wanted to cancel on him at the last moment, though I could have. Telling the Kojoy, they knew exactly, you know, the day that I was leaving. I'd already settled up with them. I'd paid for everything up to the day that I was leaving. There was a deposit involved on the room. I got the deposit back. They were expecting me to leave. I mean, everything was done for my departure. So changing gears, you know, at midnight the night before wasn't really a possibility as much as I wanted to. And I decided to just carry through, but I was not in the mood for it. So that's a bit of the behind the scenes, just how emotionally wrecked I was the night before. And the night before most big trips in my life tend to be a bit much. I can't sleep, and it's always the worst time not to be able to sleep, because if you're flying somewhere, like other trips I've taken started in Canada, and then I flew to Ethiopia, for example, or from Canada I flew to Guinea, or Canada flying to Korea or to Taiwan. And those flights, all the various connections, the airports, in transit, immigration, getting to the airport, it is exhausting. And it's so exhausting, it's next door to killing you. I mean, it feels like, yeah, I get exhausted on the airplane to the point where you're just sitting there and you can't even, your brain is just on fire. It's screaming because it hasn't gotten any sleep. I can't sleep on planes. And the time when you need to be at your best, even to get through the logistics, but even to enjoy the experience, is also the time when I'm exhausted because I was not able to sleep the night before. So I'm going to the airport exhausted, and I'm beginning one of the most difficult things I could ever do, one of those around the world flights, and I'm starting it exhausted. So those have always been brutal, and yet when I left from KL this time, that was the worst I've ever felt by far, and that's saying something. So yeah, that was not good. So it's kind of a miracle that I made it here at all, to be honest. And since I've arrived here, I'm slowly picking up on all the things that I forgot, that I neglected, little mistakes I made, things that in a normal state of mind, perhaps I would have been on top of, but I was so busy and I had so many things to do that even though I thought I had prepared everything, I hadn't actually prepared everything. You know, the time change is a good example of that. It never even occurred to me that there was a time change. But according to all my clocks now, it's like, okay, yeah, there probably was a time change. But I didn't take that into account at all. And even when I went from the airport, the hotel in Port Dickson to the ferry, I was so casual about it. I wasn't casual because I had so much to do, even when I woke up in the morning in Port Dickson, and my ferry was at 11, and they wanted me at the dock at 9, and I planned to be there at 9. In my normal life, I would be there at 8, especially with a bike. I want to be there before the crowds. I want to be there, you know, early to make sure nothing goes wrong. I don't want to feel time pressure of any kind. And yet, I just sort of went about it in such a casual manner. I just assumed everything would be fine. And that's so rare for me because I usually assume that everything will go wrong. So I basically ended up leaving from my hotel in Port Dickson at about, I think, 5 to 9 or 10 to 9 in the morning. And I'm thinking, well, that's still okay. It'll take me 15 minutes to ride to the dock. I'll get there at 9:15. That's still plenty of time. And I'm just sort of on autopilot. But thinking back, I mean, I'm riding my bike to the dock. What if I had had a flat tire? What if I had had 2 flat tires? I'm not ready for a flat tire right now. I mean, I've got the tools, I've got the repair kits, I got a pump, obviously. I can fix a flat tire. I've fixed many of them in my day. But you don't want a flat tire as you're riding towards the airport or towards the dock to get on a boat. What if I had a mechanical breakdown on the bike? Something that could not be fixed easily or quickly. That could have happened easily, and yet it never even dawned on me that, okay, there's a physical element to this. You should make sure you leave as early as possible, just in case the bike does not collapse on you. And if it breaks down on the way to the dock, you'll still have enough time to get there. I just sort of didn't even think about it. Never even occurred to me that I could get a flat tire on the way. I didn't include that in my timing for my departure. And that's very, very unlike me, and it's kind of an indication of just how tired and how out of it I was. I'm not going to repeat, as I said, the whole story about riding to the dock, checking in for the ferry, and then dealing with handing over my bike and all my gear so that, to the baggage handlers. That was a scene, put it that way. I'm hoping the video that I shot will do it justice, because yeah, it was a crazy scene. I had a chance to look at a few video clips here and there. Just last night, I had no access to the internet. Well, I did last night a little bit, but I wasn't uploading any videos or anything like that. But I was busy copying. So I was copying video files from my memory cards to my 2 hard drives, just to make sure I've got a safe backup copy of all of them. And then while I was doing that, I clicked on a couple of video clips just to watch them and make sure that the camera was working and audio was recorded, and just to see a few of the things. And there was something odd about the audio, I thought. I'm used to having a lot of ambient audio, like background sound. And it sounded very weird, the audio, to me, that it didn't seem to capture any of the chaos around me, the noise and sound around me. It was really focusing on my voice and canceling out all other sound. And I was shooting with the Insta360 X3 camera, which is a brand new camera to me. I was using the X2 before, and of course I normally use a GoPro. And I remember with the X2 and the GoPro, I got a lot of ambient, background noise, which I like because I want to hear my surroundings. But my sense from this video was, oh, it's like canceling out all of the background sound. I don't think of it as background noise, it's background audio, which I want. I want to hear the people around me. I want to hear their voices, hear the shouting going back and forth. But in the video clips that I looked at last night, I didn't seem to capture any of that. It had a weird quality to it. Maybe I put a setting on somewhere that made this happen, or maybe the X3 just happens to record audio that way. I don't know. So that's something I'm going to see eventually. I only mention that because I looked at one video clip of the loading of my bike and my gear. They have to weigh it, and then you have to pay for, the bike was 20 ringgit, but then all your other luggage gets weighed, and it cost, I don't think I put this in the video, it cost 1 ringgit per kilogram for the first 20 kilograms, I think. Yeah, something like that. And then 1.2 or 1.6 ringgit per kilogram, or per whatever, above that. But anyway, they have to put everything on the scale and weigh it, and then you pay for the total. And I did all that, but I seem to remember it being quite chaotic. I mean, it was organized, don't get me wrong. I think I made that clear in the video. I was very impressed with how they were set up. They could have used a lot more room, but they were, they were using the room, the space that they had to fairly good effect, and they had a good system in place. Everything was relatively organized, I thought. The people there were very friendly, very helpful, I couldn't, I needed a lot of help, and they gave me a lot of help. So no complaints about that at all. Everything was well organized from that point of view, but it was still a big job loading all these people and all their luggage onto that boat. And then I show up with my crazy bike and trailer and stuff like that. And they took it in their stride, but I remember it being loud and chaotic, people coming at me from all different directions, kind of wanting me to do this, go faster. And I could feel this pressure, the stress building, and I really had to fight it off and just force myself to do things at my pace rather than succumb to the atmosphere of go, 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 go. Because you get that from the baggage handlers. They want to grab your bag and throw it on the luggage scale. And you know, they're moving fast. They're loading a boat with hundreds of people. They got things to do, and you kind of get swept up in the atmosphere. And I really tried to stay outside of it. But then when I was watching the video clip, I didn't really get any of that feeling at all. It looked fine. You know, in the video clip I saw, it was just people standing around and putting luggage on a boat and paying for it. It looked calm and easygoing and relaxed. And yet my memory of it was that I was just about, you know, I was kind of going crazy. So it's kind of weird. We'll see what the final video actually looks like, whether it conveys my mental state at the time, or was it really much quieter and more relaxed than my memory of it or my experience of it. Maybe it was all coming from me and my internal state. I don't know. Thinking back over that whole experience, it brings to mind something I've talked about quite a bit, is how much I enjoy doing things a second time. Because the first time you do anything is so stressful. You don't know anything. Like, you don't know the system. There's so many unknowns. So this time, I mean, my very first time going to Port Dixon, going to the port there, getting on this boat, I have no clue what's going to happen. I have no idea what to do when I get there. And I've been to docks in many places, putting my boat, you know, buying a ticket to go out on the dock, buying a ticket for the boat, paying for the bike, putting the bike on the boat. As many varying circumstances as you can imagine. I've gone through them already in the past. And I know the huge variety of situations you can encounter. It can be easy, it can be horrendous. You just don't know what you're walking into or what you're rolling into. So yesterday when I went to the dock in Port Dixon, yeah, I was just completely blind, had no clue. So I basically rode my bike through the front gate, it was open, and then there I am staring at the building, staring at all the people roaming around, and I just, like, I don't know, I have no clue what to do. What do I do? Do I go here? Do I go there? Do I go inside? Do I stay outside? I saw I didn't see them right away, but there were like 2 tables set up, and I was like, when I saw them later, it's like, oh, do I have to go to those tables, or do I have to go in? And I ended up riding my bike up to this like a security guard who was standing there. And I thought maybe I could get some information from him, because the thing is, when you have a bike with all of your bags mounted on the bike, you're sort of attached to it. Like with a backpack, that's one of the advantages of traveling with a backpack. You've got the bag on your back and you can just wander around the whole time. So you could just go into the building, look around, ask questions, go up to the desk. Like, what do I do? How do I check in? Where do I drop off my backpack? Where do I go? You can just walk in and roam around, and then they tell you, oh, you have to go outside. You turn around and go outside. I can do that on a bike, but it's a much more involved process, because I have to park the bike, find a place where I can park it safely, where I'm allowed to park it. They often have a lot of rules about that. Security is very concerned about bicycles quite often. And generally you have to lock up your bike, secure it, and then you have to take your most valuable possessions off the bike to carry them with you. You can leave some things on your bike. I mean, I can leave the trailer attached to the bike. Nobody's gonna pick that thing up and run away with it. They wouldn't even know how to, take it off the bike. The way it's attached is very easy, but if you don't know the trick, you're not gonna be able to remove the trailer, and how are you gonna run away with it? It's not feasible. So I can leave the bike outside and I can leave the trailer outside, but my main pannier bag, I have to take it off. And now, of course, I've got a 360 camera mounted, physically attached to the bike. I have to take that off, and I have to be very careful with it because you can't bang it around on anything. I've got valuables all over the bike, attached to the bike, and you have to take all those valuables off, put them all in your pannier bag, take off the pannier bag, walk into the building, ask questions, and then they say, oh, no, what you have to do is you have to go here. So you get all your information, but then you've got to go back outside and do everything in reverse, put everything back on the bike, put your pannier bag back on the bike, and then bring your bike to where you're supposed to go. But just getting that information about where you're supposed to bring the bike is an effort. Anytime if your bike is fully loaded, anytime you stop and go inside a building is a big job. Like even if you're riding along on your tour and you're out in the middle of nowhere and there's a little coffee shop, you want to pull in and grab a coffee, well, you have to do all that. Park the bike, lock the bike, secure everything, make sure it's okay, take your valuables off the bike, put go in. And by the time you do that, you're like drenched in sweat because these are usually hot countries and it's a very hot thing. It's to do, just to do that is tiring and you're out in the hot sun. So anyway, I was faced with that when I went to Port Dickson going into the dock. As I said, I was completely blind and I had no idea what to do. And I won't tell the whole story, of course, that's in the video, but just checking in, the luggage, immigration. Immigration was the big story of the day. I was sort of blindsided by that. I was not expecting that to happen, but that happened. And then getting on the boat, it was stressful. It was chaotic in a way. And, at every stage, I didn't tell this story in the video, but just little things where once I'd checked in my bike and my trailer, everything was taken care of. Now I had to go through immigration. So you go into the building and I'm carrying my 360 camera, but of course I had to shut it off, put the cover over the lens because they really do not want cameras in there. They're very serious about security. I find in Malaysia in general, security is a very big concern, and they're very serious about it. So even holding the camera in my hand was a bad idea. I had it turned off and I had the lens cover on, so it's obviously I'm not filming anything, but everywhere I went, people stopped me, security, immigration officials, and they did not like to see that thing in my hand. They did not like it at all. And it's like, what is that? Are you filming right now? What is going on? Show me, what is that? And eventually it was like, okay, I got to put this thing away because it's scaring the life out of all these people at the dock. And and then I physically put it into my knapsack to hide it from view because, I guess they don't know. They've never seen a camera like that before. I can glance at any camera and I can tell you instantly, oh, that's recording, it isn't. I mean, if the camera has a lens cover on, obviously it's not filming, but they're busy doing something else. They can't be looking at your camera and looking for, oh, is it powered down? Is the lens cap on? That sort of thing. So yeah, I'll give them that. So yeah, put your camera away, like physically put it away, because they did not like that at all. And then once you go into the building, you're dealing with all the lineups. And then you'd think I think most of the people getting on the boat had done this trip before. They're regulars, people who work in Malaysia, but they live in Indonesia and they make the trip back and forth all the time. So you think they know how to do this, how you line up, for example, the procedure. Like, I don't know the procedure at Port Dickson, but I was thinking most of these people probably do know, and yet everybody was breaking the rules all the time. And the Malaysian officials there, the organizers, the security, they had a huge job on their hands. They were constantly going up to people and correcting their behavior. Says, no, you can't stand here. You have to stand behind that line. Everybody back up, back up, back up. And all the people, they're all Indonesians, they all back up, get behind the yellow line. 2 minutes later, the crowd has surged forward over the yellow line again. And they're all crowding around, and the security guys have to come, please back up, back up. And they force everybody back, and then everybody surges forward again. Oh, it's like a dance that goes on. And I remember that when I did the trips to Tanjung Balai from Port Klang, it was the same thing. On the Indonesian side, it was pure chaos. Everybody just went everywhere, anything they wanted to do, they just went there. And everybody was fine with that because that was just the normal way. But of course, on the Malaysian side, when I came back by boat and the boat was full of Indonesians coming to Malaysia, they're used to a more happy-go-lucky, chaotic sort of atmosphere than people in Malaysia are. People in Malaysia like things to be systematic and organized and follow a pattern and a routine. And the Indonesians are not like that at all. So when they arrived by the hundreds in the, at the dock, and they're going through customs and immigration, you could tell the Malaysian officials, they'd been dealing with this for years, and they were like, I wouldn't call them prison guards, but a little bit like prison guards. They had a system in place that forced everyone just to stay there, like one at a time, and just there, you stand, big group, you, go, one, and they're like really on top of the situation and controlling people. And at Port Dickson, there wasn't as much of a rigorous system in place. They just sort of allowed chaos to develop, and then they would step in and force people to go back. And then the chaos would start to build again, and then they come in and settle everything down. So there was a point where you went into the main immigration room, but there was a security check for your hand luggage. So you had to go to a table where there were 2 or 3 people checking all the hand luggage. And what you're supposed to do is wait in the doorway until you're signaled it's your turn to go to the table. They wanted everybody to stay at the doorway behind the yellow line, and then one at a time, when one of the security guys is free, then you go to that person. Everybody else stay behind. But the crush of people in the lineup would go forward and start crowding around that table, and they're not supposed to do that. And then the Malaysian organizer, security guard, immigration official, whoever they were, come rushing over and say, okay, no, back, push everything out. So I'm going through all of this, and then of course when it's my turn, I mean, I'm watching like a hawk. I like systems. I like things to be organized. I like to know what's going on. So I noticed this pattern at the doorway, that the Indonesians would constantly overstep the yellow line and be forced backwards. So of course, when I got to the yellow line, I made sure. I remember looking down at my toes, and I didn't even want a 1/4 inch of one of my toes across the yellow line. I looked down to make sure that my feet were entirely on this side of the yellow line, and then I waited in the doorway. And the people behind me just did not like that at all. The Indonesians in the lineup, they're all just kind of like, why is this foreigner standing there? Like, go, because I had left a gap between the doorway and the table, which is what you're supposed to do, because I was watching, and yeah, you're supposed to stand behind the yellow line and wait until it's your turn. And that's what I was doing, but the people behind me didn't know what I was doing. All they saw was me standing in a doorway and not moving, right? Oh man, so that was stressful, that was kind of chaotic. And then I did go up to the table, and of course, my bag is incomprehensible to most people. It's jammed with electronics. So, and my bag looks so weird. My pannier bag has so many pockets. And of course I had a lock on the zipper. And so I go up to when it was my turn, I go up to the table and I put my pannier bag down there. And I've had this experience many times in my life. And the security guy would just sort of look at it and go, like, mentally you can see him like, what? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? They don't know how to open it. They don't know anything about all the compartments, all the pockets. And that was kind of stressful, because they kept picking it up and putting it upright and says, okay, open it, because all bags open from the top, but mine opens from the front. So you have to lay it down flat, and then you unzip the entire top, the front of it, and it opens up like a suitcase. So you have to lay it down flat in order to open it. But I would lay it down flat, and they go, no, no, no. And he would pick it back up and say, open, open, open. I said, no, I gotta, said, no, no, open, open, open. And says, yeah, I'm opening, you know, don't stop shouting at me. The chaos was getting to me, and I laid it down flat again, and I showed him, okay, zipper, that's how it opens, you know, there, look. And of course, inside my bag, I have like a Russian doll series of, there's my main bag, and then there's a bag and another bag and a bag and a bag and a bag, because, you know, I've got my main camera bag, which is filled with tinier bags, because one bag has my GoPro batteries, another bag has my Insta360 accessory, you know, this one has my microphones, this one has my other microphones, you know, it's like a bag within a bag. It's a world of compartments, hidden compartments and stuff everywhere. And they make an effort to look at first. They're like, okay, we got to look through this. And you can see at a certain point, they're like, they just give up. It's like, I have no idea what to do with this. So yeah, it's okay, you can go, you know. So zip it back up again and go through. Yeah, it was an experience. Anyway, I guess what I was trying to say is, it was very stressful. But I really want to do it again. Like, I want to go back to Port Dickson now on a bicycle. And now if I go a second time, I'll know. Like, you won't have 10% of the stress of the first time, because I know now that, okay, you don't go into the building first. They have a system where even with a bicycle, you just ride in and ride up to the first table. You check in with your ticket. So now you're all done. They scan it with their system. You're checked in, and then the next table over is luggage, and they have to do this. They have to weigh it. You have to pay. They have to put this. Then the guy takes it, and you know the system. You know the steps, and you know exactly what to do. And I really like doing things a second time, because the second time you know what to do, and you don't have nearly the amount of stress you do the first time. So it would be very enjoyable for me to take that ferry ride again. And the boat itself was a complete surprise. Again, I had no idea what the boat was like. I haven't done this trip before. I'd never seen an Indo-Mall fast ferry before. So that was all brand new as well. And if I did this trip a second time, I'd probably do it differently as well, because when I went to the docks the day before to pay for my ticket, the guy did ask me class, which I wasn't aware of, because in all of my communication with Indo-Mall, phone calls and WhatsApp messages, they were sending me schedules, they were sending me price lists. A lot of communication went on back and forth, but throughout all of that communication, no one mentioned that there were two classes. Economy class and what they call VIP class. Different prices, I guess. Never heard of this. It never came up. No one mentioned it. So when I went to pay for my ticket, at that point, I had the price in my mind already, because they'd sent me the fares and then the schedule. I knew what it was, one way, round trip. I had all the information there, but then the guy turned to me and he said, in the moment, oh, like economy or a VIP, where would you like to sit? You want to sit in the VIP area or the economy area? And I didn't know. It was like, oh, I didn't even know that was a choice. So this was like hitting me for the first time. And my instinct was to go with just economy, because in my experience doing trips like this, you pay for the VIP, whatever it is, and there's nothing there. In many cases, it can be worse than economy, because when you're in economy, you're just there with everybody else. It's interesting. You get to people watch, you know, the just ordinary, regular people, and it's more open usually. It's open, and you can move around a lot more. And then if you opt for the VIP status, then suddenly you get shunted into a smaller area, and maybe it's actually worse than being in the open area, you know, like I don't know, think Titanic. I always thought that was always an amusing scene. You know, the movie Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio is he's part of the working class, so he's down in the he's in the hold with all the poor people basically, and Kate Winslet is up there with the rich, and then the life of the rich, of course, is supposed to be better than the life of the poor. But of course, in movies, they often show it as the exact opposite, that the rich people are all sitting around very stiffly in their tuxedos and their beautiful clothing and eating delicately and having no fun at all. And then Leonardo DiCaprio's character takes Kate Winslet's character down into the depths of the poor people part of the ship, where everybody is having fun and enjoying themselves, you know. So yeah, you kind of have that classic image, and sometimes it turns out not quite like that. In my experience, where I've paid for VIP seating, they just sort of, it's exactly the same as economy except a different area. It's like, okay, you paid all this extra money, but you didn't really get anything. But with this boat, I didn't know. Like, was there a big difference? I was thinking mainly of cameras. Like, oh, if I'm shooting video, is it better to be in economy or VIP? Like, in which area do I have more access to the outside world, to walk around the ship, to see more? I just didn't know. And I wasn't prepared for the question, so I just said to the guy, economy, I guess. Like, I don't know what VIP is. And I didn't even ask how much it cost, which is a big oversight on my part. I wish I knew now. Like, how much is VIP ticket compared to a regular ticket? I never even asked. Because one thing you can do is, even if you pay for a VIP ticket and it's not that much more expensive and you don't like the VIP area, well, you can always leave and go down to the regular area. So you're not always trapped there. But anyway, in this case, I'm still not entirely sure, because there was a stairway that went to the second floor. Economy was on the main part of the boat, and then there was another floor up above, and a stairway went up there, but it was roped off the entire time. If you're not a VIP person, you're not allowed to go up there. You cannot mix with the elite if you are in the economy class. And I kept waiting for it to open, and I was going to ask somebody at some point, like one of the workers, can I just go up for like 2 minutes? I want to see what it looks like, take some video from up there. But I never really had the opportunity to do that, so I never did see it. But yesterday, reviewing the video, I saw a little bit. I was outside, like on the economy level. There was a tiny space at the back of the boat, and that was the smoking area. So the only place you could actually go outside was to go through this really heavy duty door, really hard to open because it has like a safety feature system, one lever to unlock it and then the handle to unlock it. And it's really, really heavy. And it's kind of if the boat capsizes or something, that door is meant to keep the water out. I mean, it's a watertight seal, that sort of thing. So it's a heavy duty door, difficult to get through, and the area is so tiny and it's so jammed with smokers because all the men smoke basically, and they're all out there, and you can't even open the door because it's hitting people and you're trying to squeeze through. And I've got my camera and I've got my pannier bag and I'm trying to get through there. So that was pretty funny. But then at one point I took 2 of my selfie sticks. I got one selfie stick, and then I took a tripod and I screwed the selfie stick into the tripod and extended that. Another time I put 2 Insta360 selfie sticks together to make it as long as possible. And what I wanted to do was lift it up as high as I could above the boat and get video of the whole boat on the ocean. From where I was, though, I had no idea what I was filming, because I can't see above me. There's like a roof, of course, over my head, and all I could do was lift this thing up as high as I could, hoping that the wind force isn't going to snap it in half and I'm going to lose my camera. I'm just sort of holding it up there for a while. No idea what I'm filming. So I did that, and then I saw some of the video last night, so it was pretty funny. because I couldn't see very much. The boat is big, it's a big boat, and it goes quite high. So I was hoping to get video from up above down on the boat, but there's no way, because I would have needed a stick twice as long in order to get above the boat. So I just kind of I ended up raising the camera just high enough to sort of look on the balcony area of the VIP section. And it was a totally different atmosphere there. When I saw the video last night, I was like, oh, that's where I wanted to be. It looked nice. You're higher, it was bigger, more spacious, and there was nobody there. In the video, there's a few seconds of people just posing for selfies. You know, there are couples up there, and the woman is standing against the railing and striking a pose, and the guy is, you know, taking selfies of her with his smartphone. And it just looks so nice, and there's so much empty space. It just looked like there was more outdoor space, and you could walk around a lot more, and it looked like it would have been maybe a better place to be. So maybe if I did this trip in the future, I would pay for the VIP ticket just to have access to that top area, so I could go outside the boat more easily and see more of the world and get better video. Though in the end, I think it's better to be in economy, because that's where all the action is. I was very interested in the loading and unloading of luggage, the loading and unloading of passengers. And if you're up in the VIP area, you're not going to see anything. You know, these are the people just sitting there, in their chairs on the journey. You're not going to see any of the action of the boat. All the action is down on the main deck. So I was happier to be in economy in the main area. I didn't even sit in a seat the whole time. I just walked around the entire time. And there was one area, there was a wooden platform about 1.5 feet off the ground, and there's a wide kind of circular wooden platform with a trap door on it. And it was a huge trap door, but that's the luggage hold. So in fact, all of the luggage comes through the main door, and then they open this big trap door, and there's a ladder going down into the cargo area, and then all the suitcases and bags and trailers, everything else goes down into the hold. And then when the boat is underway, they close that trap door, and then it just creates this wooden platform. And that's where I sat the entire time. I never even sat in the chair, because I'd like to be out in the open. This was a more spacious area. And my bike was sitting right there as well. And yeah, that's where I sat the whole time. I never took a seat. So I think way towards the very, very end, I think I'd taken all the video that I wanted to take of the interior of the boat and the exterior of the boat. And there was a lot of activity in the main area as we're getting closer to Dumai. And I didn't want to be in people's way. So like for maybe 15 minutes, I sat in a seat, like an actual comfortable, you know, seat that you're supposed to sit in. But I really didn't sit down nearly the entire time. I was just sort of perched on this wooden platform, and then I'd get up and walk around, then I'd perch there again. As far as the rest of the journey goes, maybe I'll leave all those stories for the main video whenever I get around to editing it, and I have Wi-Fi to upload it. So much happened. There was so much going on. The young guys, the staff of the Indo Mall Ferry Company, they were amazing. There were a whole bunch of them. Their job, you know, was to run the boat, basically. From a simple point of view, you know, they were baggage handlers for the most part. It was their job to put all the bags in the cargo area and then take it out again. And they were very friendly, all from Indonesia, all these young guys. And they all wanted to talk with me and take selfies with me. We took a whole bunch of selfies together, which was fun. And then they gave me the staff came around, they gave me the cards, right? You have to fill out a customs card. And it kind of astonishes me at this point when I'm traveling around, going to a new country, and they give you one of these cards to fill out, and there's no English option at all, which again, often surprises me. But in this case, yeah, it was all in Indonesian, and a lot of the language I didn't recognize, so I had no idea how to fill it out, you know. And by this point, we had left the shore. So I didn't have access to the internet anymore. And when I tried to use Google Translate to translate the Indonesian on this form to fill it out, couldn't, you know, because I have no access. It just says, oh, you have no internet connection, and Google Translate wouldn't work for me. I thought it would work in the past. You know, I'm pretty sure it did without an internet connection, but this time, for whatever reason, it said no internet. So, sorry, sir, we cannot translate for you today. This is what Google told me, so I was staring at this and I was just guessing. No idea. But then one of the young guys came up to me and says, oh, you know, he spoke a little bit of English and says, you know, I'll help you out with that. And we had a lot of trouble communicating, but he sat down with me and sort of helped me fill out the card. You know, we had to talk a lot. He was trying to explain what this item was, and I'm like, what? I don't understand. He'd do it over and over again. I'd finally, oh, that's what it is. And we worked together until we got the card filled out. And there was some sort of a weird, I forget what it was called now, statement letter that I had to fill out. The key thing there, it seemed to be a COVID thing, because way down at the bottom of the form, it asked for the name of your vaccine and the dates. That the three, you had to have three. There's a space for 1, 2, and a third, so a booster. Your 2 original shots and then a booster is what they wanted to see. And there was a space for PCR test. You know, where did you get your PCR test, and where was the PCR test pickup, and what was the date, and what were the results? So I'm looking at that thinking, oh boy, as far as I was aware, all of these requirements were gone. You weren't required to get tests anymore. So, but on this form, they were asking for that information. I thought, oh boy, what's gonna happen when I arrive in Dumai? Is this going to be a problem? Because yeah, I didn't take a PCR test to get on the ferry. It never came up. So, but yeah, so I'm filling out that paper as well. And the funny thing is, with a lot of these forms, like the customs form, and this letter of statement letter, whatever it is, when you're filling it out, you take it very seriously. As a person filling out the form, you're trying to get all the information accurate, and then you're being very careful to get all the information correct, and you think it's something important and serious, and you don't want to make mistakes. And then when I arrived in Dumai, and you're getting off the boat, and I went by this table, and a woman came running up to me and said something about letter or statement or something. And I was like, oh, you want that? And I dug it out of my ID pouch, handed it to her, and she said, thank you. Like, she never even looks at it. Like, I left the whole PCR thing blank because I didn't have it. I thought about faking it. I was going to put in fake results or something, because with forms like this, the one thing they usually don't like is blank spaces. The information can be completely inaccurate, but that doesn't matter to anyone. They just need to see something filled in. But in this case, I wouldn't even know what to fill in for a PCR test. I don't know anything about it. I left that whole thing blank, and I thought that might be a problem, but then this woman never even looked at the form. She was just grabbing these papers from everyone, just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and just tossing them on the desk. Nobody looks at them. Nobody cares what you write on them. I had to write down all kinds of detailed addresses that I didn't understand. It was like my address in Malaysia, then it wanted my destination address, and it wanted my transit address. And it's like, well, what is the difference between transit and destination? I couldn't make sense out of any of it. And even my address in Dumai, I struggled there. Again, this is another mistake on my part because I was so out of it. I normally prepare an address in advance because you always have to fill in your address, like the hotel where you're going to be staying. And you don't actually have to stay at that hotel. You just have to write down the name, address, and phone number of some kind of hotel. So I normally prepare that in advance. I choose like a 4 or 5-star hotel to make it look good, and I get all that information ready so that I fill out the form and I just say I'm staying at the fancy hotel, because they're usually the easiest to talk about. People know them. But in this case, I forgot to do that. And you'd think, I think in the back of my mind, I thought I could just get it off the internet when the time came. But when this happened, we'd already left shore and I had no more internet access. So even when I tried to get the address of a hotel, I couldn't get it off the internet anymore. I could get a little bit just a piece of an address on Google Maps or something like that. And then I just made up the rest. It's like, because they wanted district and regency and for the address, it's all very complicated stuff. They break down the address in Indonesia in ways that they don't in Canada. So, it's just standard for every country. They have a different address system, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what goes where? I don't even know what is a regency, what is a sub-district. I have no idea, and I just sort of filled in a bunch of stuff. And in the end, it doesn't matter. The statement letter, they just kind of took it, never looked at it. And even customs. You think customs would be quite important because they're very serious about putting your gear through the X-ray machine and all that kind of stuff. This bit of a show of security, I guess. I don't even know if those X-ray machines do anything, to be honest. Like, what could they possibly be looking for? Like, when my bags went through with all the electronics and all that stuff, it must look pretty amazing through the X-ray. If I'm the technician, I saw my bag go through, I'd be like, what the heck is in there? Because I got camp stoves, electronic, a lot of metal. It's like, what in the world is this guy carrying? I'd investigate based on what my bag looks like, but it just sails through every time. I think it's more for show than anything else. I think they have to put the bags through the machine, so they put them through the machine, but I'm not convinced that anybody even looks at the screen or even knows what they're looking at, to be honest. So you'd think customs would be very serious, and you're filling, because it's a legal thing, right? In terms of how much currency you can legally bring in and out of the country, items that you can take in or not, and they have to list all the things that are bad, and you just go, no, 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 no. I don't have any of those things. And it feels like a very important form, but then when you actually get to the customs area, there's just a person there, like people are streaming past, and they're just like, collecting the customs forms, okay, thank you, 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 thank you. Nobody looks at them, nobody cares about them, and I think they just collect them, and then at the end of the day, they just toss them in the garbage. I mean, it's not like it's being sent to a processing center, and they put them in front of a technician who goes through them one by one and enters all the information into a computer record or anything. I mean, I think all of that is just for show. Nobody ever looks at that stuff. At least not in my experience, kind of traveling around this part of the world. So yeah, all of that, man, a lot happened. And then I finally got out of the dock, and I was on my bike, and then I had to find a hotel, a place to stay. And that turned out to be a bit of a challenge. Again, this is kind of behind the scenes. This is funny because there was one hotel in particular I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. I went down this street where it was supposed to be located. I've got Google Maps. Like, Google Maps will operate with GPS even without an internet connection. So I knew where I was, and I knew where the hotel was supposed to be. I was on the right street, and I guess I was kind of flustered because I could not find this hotel to save my life. And I was pretty much overwhelmed too at that point. I was tired, I was stressed out, I was hot, I was sweaty. And you're out in the bright sun, so then you're trying to look at your phone, look at Google Maps, and you can't see anything because of the bright sun, and you're trying to create shade with your body. You kind of position your body against the sun to cast a little bit of a shadow, and you're holding the phone here, trying to keep it in the shadow, and you're trying to look at it, and I can't make out anything. And your fingers are dripping with sweat, your face is dripping with sweat. It's all falling onto the phone, and it's hard to navigate. But last night again, I was reviewing some of the video, and I happened to click on the video when I was riding down that road, and in the video, there's the hotel. I was right beside the hotel. It's right there, right beside me. Not only did I ride my bike past it twice, I stopped in front of it looking at the map, trying to find it, and it was right there the whole time. And for whatever reason, I never saw it. so ridiculous. But anyway, I rode a lot. I rode to another hotel that I had picked out in advance, and it was just closed. This happens a lot to me. There's a hotel, it seems to be open. You could book it on Agoda. It's all there, it's all listed, has phone numbers, whatever. And then I go to the hotel and it's just nothing but closed doors. Everything was just, there's no way to get into it. It's a building with every door that's shuttered and locked. And like, well, I could hear some sounds coming in from inside, but I'm like, what do I do? There's nobody here, you know? And that happened at 2 different places that I saw. And I looked at one hotel that was an absolute nightmare. Horrible, horrible place. Sure glad I didn't stay there. It was the cheapest of the bunch. And they showed me a room, their cheapest room. It was sort of like a fan-only shared bathroom setup, but man, that was brutal. I'm so glad I didn't end up staying there. The room where I am now is twice the cost of that room. But in terms of value, it is 10 times better, at least 20 times better. So the low budget level is not very good value for the most part. So yeah, I rode around and around and around in Dumai and struggled a little bit to find a place to stay until I found the place where I am now. And with all of that behind the scenes thing, I guess I'll wind it up with a little bit of a technology, because that didn't come up in the main video either. Just technology mistakes. One thing I need to do on my bike is put on an emergency brake. I never got around to doing that when I was in KL, and I knew I needed to do it. Because with a bike in particular, and any bicycle and a touring bike in particular, you really need a way to take the brakes and apply them like an emergency brake when you are off the bike. Because with all the heavy bags on the bike and all the weird positions you end up with, if you just park the bike and get off of it, it will roll on you. It will roll backwards, it will roll to the side and fall over. So what you need to be able to do is lock the brakes in place like a car's emergency brake. And then the front wheel won't be able to turn, and then your bike won't fall over. Yeah, I know, I realized this when I was on the boat, because my bike, they didn't put it in the cargo area. They loaded it. My bike was the last thing they put on the boat, and they just basically rolled it on to the boat through the front, the main door on the side, and then they just parked it right there, like that wooden platform I talked about where I was sitting, right in front of it, right near the door. That's where they put my bike. So I was sitting there the whole time with my bike right in front of me. And then occasionally the boat would hit some rough water and the boat would tilt. And when the boat tilted, my bike would just go rolling away. And I'd have to reach out and grab it really quickly, or it would crash somewhere. And I realized, oh, I really should have developed an emergency brake. But to do that, you need a special kind of rubber. But I realized I have some bungee cords. And I think what I'm going to do today is take one of these bungee cords, which I don't really need, but I think this will be good for an emergency brake. So I'm going to cut this, tie it off. Oh, that might be too much though. It's not enough flex in there. If I have an older one, it's a bit stretchier, but maybe I can make an emergency brake. I just need a big elastic band basically that goes around the handlebars, and then when you park the bike, you take this elastic and then pull it over the brake handle, and it pulls it into position, and then it locks the front tire. So that's one thing I'm going to work on today. And the other problem, oh boy, technology problems. I arrived in Dumai, finally got my X3 camera mounted on the front of the bike on the selfie stick. I'm riding away from the dock, babbling away and using the 360 camera, and then the camera overheated and shut down. I swear I was 10 minutes into my Sumatran journey, and the 360 camera failed on me. It was like, oh boy, this is not this is not good. But it was very hot out there in the hot sun and everything else, and I guess the camera just overheated and shut down. So then I tried to switch to my GoPro, but I still haven't figured out a good mounting system for the GoPro. So I'm going to think about that for a minute. But I got out, I put away the 360 camera because it wouldn't work anymore. It just would not turn on. I waited to try and let it cool down, but no matter how long I waited, it just would not turn on again. Yesterday, to be honest, I thought it was broken. I thought it hadn't made it even one day into the trip and it already, you know, broke down. But I found out this morning, no, it did, or not, late last night, it does work. I charged up all the batteries and then I put a fresh battery in there, and it's all nice and cool here in this air-conditioned room, and then the camera turned on. So it's like, whew. So at least it still works, but I guess it, yeah, just overheated as soon as I arrived, so that was pretty funny. So then I put the 360 camera away. I was at the side of the road, you know, that hot sun beating down. I got all my bags open, chaotic, crazy traffic, everybody saying, hello, hello, everyone, you know. Very friendly people here in Sumatra. A lot going on. And then I got out my GoPro, put the GoPro together. I mounted it a little bit on my handlebars, not correctly, but I managed to mount it. And I turned on the GoPro and it went nuts. It went beep, 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 you know, SD card error, SD card failure. And I got a message saying, the only way you can fix this is to reformat the card. And that means I would lose all the video that I had shot. So it was like the 360 camera failed and the GoPro failed right out of the gate. So that wasn't good news. Yeah, the mounting system I have for the GoPro, yeah, I'll end the video with this story perhaps. What I'd like to do is use the same mounting system for the 360 camera and the GoPro, because I have the 360 mounted to the frame of the bike instead of the handlebars. And that means it stays in one position. Even when I turn the handlebars, the camera doesn't move because it's locked to the frame of the bike. And that's what I want to do with the GoPro as well. But I had trouble figuring out how to do that in Kuala Lumpur. But I came up with another idea that might work. The main problem I faced is that in order to do this mounting system, I want to use the Insta360 invisible selfie stick for both cameras. But this isn't designed for a GoPro. And when you stretch it out to its full length like this, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. And there's a connection at every point because it's made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 individual segments. And each piece is held in place by friction. And then when you extend it to this length, it's quite a bit more flexible. It can hold the 360 camera, no problem, but the weight of the GoPro and the media mod and the microphones, everything is a bit heavy for this. Plus it's a tripod mount, which a GoPro doesn't have, so I have to put adapters and adapters and adapters on here in order to mount a GoPro. And then when I got all that figured out, it was way too top heavy. And because of all these segments, there's a little bit of play in each one. And this end bit will turn. It actually rotates just a little bit. And then it rotates enough that it ends up tilting the GoPro. And then the whole GoPro twists over and everything comes loose. It was a complete disaster. I shot a video about that, and I think I called the video a complete failure. And that's what I was talking about. My GoPro mounting was a failure. But I have 2 of these selfie sticks. So what I'm going to try to do basically is I'm going to combine them, but combine them in such a way that I'm only using the thickest part of the pole, which will be the most rigid and the ones that has the least turning. Because right now I have it, like if you have it completely collapsed, then it doesn't turn as much anymore. So what I'm going to do is take the thinnest part of the pole, collapse that, down to maybe 3 or 4 sections, call it 3. So I've got that, and then I'll take this one, do the same thing, collapse the thin part all the way down so that I just have maybe 3 sections left, the thickest section, and then I can screw this one into this one and attach them together. So now I've taken the thickest part of this one and attached it to the thickest part of this one, which means it's heavier, but it's not as flexible and it doesn't rotate as much. So that's going to be I'm going to try to mount the GoPro using the 2 selfie sticks attached together. What I really need is a solid pole, like some kind of a pole that's completely rigid, lightweight, but has no flex in it at all. You know, it doesn't collapse or anything like that, just a rigid pole like this, but I don't have anything like that. So that's the other technology thing that I'm going to work out. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that because this would be the weak point, you know, where this one screws into the base of the other one. That's going to be the weak point in terms of this mounting system, but that's what I'm going to figure out today at some point. And my main goal, my main task for today is to I want to edit video today. I need to relax here and do plan my trip, my cycling route out of Dumai towards Bukittinggi, and get a SIM card. So I want to get a SIM card, explore the town a little bit, hang out. Something I forgot actually is that at hotels here in Indonesia, you get breakfast. So even like this place is, you know, low budget hotel. But yesterday they said something about breakfast. And I'm like, oh, breakfast. Okay, I forgot about that. You often, you know, get a breakfast at a hotel here. So we'll see how that turns out. Whew, so that's it for my behind the scenes thoughts for this morning. Yeah, man. I started the video talking about how stressed out I was in KL and how that departure was the most difficult, the most traumatic of my entire life. That was so difficult for some reason. Just about did me in. Now that I'm here, I feel quite a bit better. And even packing up in Port Dickson was easier than packing up out of Kuala Lumpur, mainly because when I was in Kuala Lumpur, I had all of my stuff in the room, and I was sort of dividing it into 2 piles. The pile that's going to go bike touring with me and the pile that isn't. Because I still have a backpack. In the future, I'm not sure if I'm going to be cycling or taking a backpack with me everywhere I go. So I still have the backpack. I haven't given it away or sold it or done anything with that. So I left the backpack in Kuala Lumpur. And somehow dividing everything up was really stressful, but it's easy to make a mistake. For example, I was going to bring my little knapsack with me. I have this very lightweight blue Osprey knapsack, and I didn't really want to take it because it adds more weight and it's duplication, But I thought, I'll just toss it into the trailer and it'll come in really handy to have a nice little lightweight knapsack from time to time. A lot lighter than my pannier bags. But then at the last minute, I thought, no, let's not bother with that. Let's leave it behind. I have enough stuff to carry. So I took it out and I was going to leave it behind, but I forgot that I emptied the whole thing. I took everything out of it to make sure I didn't forget anything. But I did forget something because in one of the hidden pockets, that's where I keep my USB-C earphones that plug into my phones and that plug into my tablet, because it has a USB-C plug with really nice earphones. And my smartphones and tablet only have USB-C. There's no 3.5 millimeter jack. And I was in Port Dickson and I was at a place having something to eat. And I thought, I'll take out my tablet and watch a bit of a movie or something while I'm having dinner. And then I was looking around, like, forgot my USB-C headphones. They're still in that Osprey bag, which I left behind. And it's so easy to do things like that. But once I was in Port Dickson, I had my full touring load. My bike was there with everything I'm bringing with me on my trip. So really, packing is easier because I take everything. So in terms of knowing that I brought everything I need, all I really need to do is pack up, and then I look around the room. As long as the room is empty, as long as there's nothing that I own that's still in the room, I know that everything I brought with me is packed away somewhere. So basically I pack up fully, and then I look around the bathroom. Okay, there's nothing in the bathroom. I look around here, the main room, there's nothing here, nothing hanging up, nothing plugged into the wall. As long as the room is empty, I know that everything is in the bags, right? So like psychologically and logistically, it's just easier to pack that way. It's sort of like if you were leaving from your house for a long trip. It's complicated because you have such a vast selection of things that you could pack, and you can easily leave something behind. But when you're actually on the road, packing up from a hotel morning after morning after morning is easier because all you have to make sure is you haven't left anything behind. As long as you've left nothing in the room, you know that everything is with you. It's just easier. And I noticed that in Port Dickson. I kind of packed up in the morning and it's like, oh yeah, this is a lot easier. Just take everything in the room, put it all in the bag, and then I'm done. So that was kind of interesting. So I've been hearing my phone beeping, which means the internet has come back. So I'm getting some messages there, which is nice. So there's probably internet now has returned. The Wi-Fi has returned now that it's morning. All right, I can find out what time it is. I still don't even know what time it is. So that's it. Time to start my day, shut down behind the scenes, and I'll see you in the next video.